Hello everyone, welcome at our regular DevSync. We'll share updates from the last week and plans for the upcoming week. Before we go into that though, we want to welcome a new team member, Shamil. Shamil, welcome. Glad to see you here and hopeful productive work.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
Awesome. So where to start? Lucien, would you mind starting updates?
Sure. So last week, I was primarily working on allowing only one trusted executor to produce the execution receipt. Most of it has been done. The PR has been merged, but there are still a few things that need to be discussed on the protocol call before finalizing the initial version. For example, in which way the farmers will use to verify the execution receipt is correctly signed by the expected author. I also fixed a regression of the execution receipt submission to the primary chain. And then I tried to debugging the issue of storage routes that did the match that occurred on the executor phone nodes. The preliminary results showed that it happens when the executor syncs a block from the other executor node, which means the syncing between the executor nodes is broken right now. So it's also a thing I would like to discuss tomorrow. Um, everything is just fine if the executor process the block constructed from the primary chain block, instead of thinking from the other executor nodes. So this week I'll continue the debugging before the next protocol sync call. We'll discuss a few things and then decide the concrete tasks for the next step. Yeah, that's everything I have.
Cheng, do you think that's going to be a long discussion, like more than 5 to 10 minutes that we might need to schedule a separate meeting for to go through?
Not really. I think it can be done in like 10 minutes or 15.
Okay.
I have written those questions in a Notion page. I can share it just there.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Ved, would you mind going next?
Yep. Hey everyone. Last week, okay, the first half of the week was mostly focused on getting the content addressable object storage landed. Let me just share my video. I think that's much more easier. Cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so the first one was the content addressable object storage. This is landed. Basically, in the previous weeks we broke the IPFS kind of object storage, so we brought that one back in this one, and we also added further changes to the how we actually index the substrate blocks. Instead of combining block height and block hash in one shot, we derive two keys out of it so that it's much easier for the clients when they're syncing from RDSN to just go through the block height from 0 to whatever if they do not know the block hashes in advance. And if they do have block hashes, they can use a second key to retrieve the same object as well. So that landed. And the other one was the grandpa validation. We had to add some more changes to this post that discussion that could incorporate we starting from at the Genesis block, but not do any validation up until some checkpoint block. And then the validation happens after the checkpoint block. So this was missing initially, so we got this one in. Along with this, we also did a bunch of other checks on the block itself, like example, checking the extensics that were passed as part of the block with the extrinsic root that is part of the header, and checking the parent hash that we have imported is the same one that we are importing in the current block, and some of the other checks. So this is landed as well, and I think and Sergey is checking on this with the integrations on the relay side. Looks like one small thing that might have been broken would be the extrinsic roots. I think Substrate do encode those extrinsics weirdly, so that it's much more easier for the clients to not worry about the internal types and just use opaque extrinsic type. So I'm not sure if the relay is doing something similar or so. So I would have to check with Sergey and see how we can resolve that. So that's currently my primary focus for this week. Apart from that, I've also had a chance on the protocol side to look at the slot duration one. Like ideally, we decided that we want to start a discussion with parity, but it turns out the way the parity or the substrate framework itself assumes or creates the slot numbers is basically like Unix timestamp in milliseconds by the slot duration in milliseconds. So like that pretty much gives us no possibility of changing the slot duration. And I think I'm quite sure that they wouldn't be very happy if we start a discussion around it, because that would mean that just for us, they would have to make some changes to the slot duration or the way that they create a slot ID from the slot duration on the current timestamp, so that it's always incrementing, even if the slot duration increases or decreases. Like for example, like 1,000 by slot duration, 10 milliseconds would give like 100 slot ID, right? But if you increase the slot duration, which is what we are trying to do, then the slot ID for the same timestamp would be 10. Like we'll be going back instead of like ideally forwarding, like moving forward. So that would essentially break the entire slot worker itself on the substrate. So I've been thinking about some other alternatives for us to have, like rather than deriving the slot IDs from the slot duration itself, we could derive it in a way that could be independent of the slot duration itself, but rather consider it like not like how exactly parity does it, so that we do not have the same problem when the slot duration changes. The slot ID doesn't ideally move that back or forth, but rather always incrementing irrespective of what the duration is. I'm not sure if you guys follow. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, let's have a discussion on that tomorrow, Ved. That's a great update. It's probably resolving is outside the scope of today.
Yeah. Just want to give you a quick update on that, and give you some thought to think about, some potential ideas if you have any to resolve that. But we'll talk more tomorrow. That's the secondary focus for this week. Like if relay work is done, I can focus on this, because we do have some more issues on the feed that we thought we do not need to attend them right now. I'm thinking the slot one is much more higher priority, but again, depends on our discussion tomorrow how we want to go that route. Until then, yeah, that's all from my end. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Ved. Ivan, you're next.
Sure, yeah. Last week, I focused on the Windows thing bug. Yeah, but I was digging into the substrate networking. Yeah, but fortunately, Nazar found the issue, and it was related to the WASM execution from Windows. I guess he can elaborate on that a bit later. Yeah. Apart from that, I've been testing the farmer on my HDD setup. Yeah, but I faced several issues related to the at first not syncing related to the our testnet. So yeah, I faced the issue related to the not banning from the syncing node. So yeah, I think the issue is that my syncing was very slow at some moment. Yeah, I discovered also that my HDD unfortunately is its performance it degrades whenever I reach 50 or 60% limit of the capacity. So yeah, so after I tried thinking from the testnet, I also tried to use the Subspace JS for filling the local chain with some random data. Yeah, that also led to same kind of issues. So yeah, I didn't succeed on that. Yeah, I expect to receive the new 8 terabyte HDD like tomorrow. So yeah, I think I will be able to test like full replica setup tomorrow at least, like, or within a day or two. Yeah. Apart from that, I created some small PRs yesterday. So one of which is like parallelizing plot opening. Yeah, I discovered that opening plots, several replicas on my HDD is very slow. Yeah, but if I parallelize them, the opening time it decreases. So yeah, that's why I decided to open the PR. I hope it can be merged soon. Apart from that, I also created the draft PR for our Docker Compose setup. We discussed a bit with Nazar the possibility of adding the health check as the so the issue is that the node startup may take some time. Yeah, and the farmer will just keep restarting and busy waiting while the node will be still starting. Yeah, for this exact use case, Docker has the health check. Yeah, and I basically added it right now to our Docker image. So yeah, after the after the new snapshot release, I guess it can be merged. New setup for Docker, and it should be more optimized for for uh, for low speed node setup. So yeah, I guess that was all for my last week. This week I plan to finish the build for adding snapshot build for the R64. Yeah, I dig a bit into that today. Yeah, hope to finish that soon, and after that move on to help Nazar with the DSN and not thinking from the DSN. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Ivan, can you elaborate a little bit on what you meant? You said that whenever you got up to like 50 or 60% of your HDD that you ran into some performance issues. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure, yeah. I discovered that that I need like 4 or 5 hours in order to like add like 30 megabytes like to the blockchain history. So yeah, I don't know what is the issue, but I guess my HDD is quite old. So yeah, I guess if I hit the same issue with the new HDD, yeah, I guess I can research that a bit more later.
It could also be something as what data sets are you using? Because like with Ethereum, you get something like that where you're syncing empty blocks and everything is quick. Then when you get to denser part of the DDoS part of the chain, it is kind of like hell. So is it dummy data or is it actual FarmNet subspace archive data you're syncing?
It is dummy data. I just generate random bytes.
Okay.
I guess that might be also the issue.
If it's random,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sam.
no, if it's random bytes, then that hypothesis is rubbish.
Okay. When you say like, what do you specifically mean when you say adding data to the blockchain? You mean the archiving process from the client sending the data over to the farmer?
Yep. It's both sending to the node and the farmer.
And that's bottlenecked by the HDD because it's writing it to the RocksDB database or to ParityDB?
I think it's both. I mean, the plotting itself, it's hella slow. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my concern is that we shouldn't expect people to have to buy new hard drives because their hard drives don't work as is with Subspace. So if it's not working, if an off-the-shelf commodity hard drive that we already have is not working with Subspace, then that's a problem that we need to identify with the plotting process. That's like a serious problem that we need to identify. Like if we hit, and that's why I wanted to do this 1 terabyte plot to see what kind of issues like this arise. So, so I think we'll probably need to dig into that in a lot more detail in tomorrow's discussion, and probably prioritize identifying what the problem is and what we can do to resolve that in the farming implementation. But we shouldn't expect people to have to go like buy a brand new hard drive just to be able to plot.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that the issue might be like with my exact like hard drive. So I guess I could try with a different setup for tomorrow. Like I could try to do a bit more plotting like this night. So like for example, I could use like 50% of the space of the of my HDD and just plot like and try to plot like full plot. Yeah, instead of.
Is it the problem with plotting, or just the sync of or like creating blocks on the blockchain node?
I think it's issue with the plotting, as I see that in the logs, like the node doesn't produce new blocks, but the farmer is still archiving segments. So I believe that the issue is that.
Okay, but the latest version shouldn't. Okay.
I use the latest version for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but right. Do you have any smart errors on that hard drive by any chance? Did you check that?
I didn't. Yeah, I guess I should.
Check, maybe there is like a region of the disk which is problematic or something. But that's it. Definitely something we need to debug and figure out what the root cause is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like if your computer's working fine, you haven't had any issues with your hard drive up to this point, then that's a problem with Subspace, probably not with your hard drive that we need to identify, more than likely. But yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I just thought that I should try that like on a different hard drive, just in case. Yeah. I guess I should check also the issues with my hard drive explicitly.
Yeah, just one comment on ARch64. It's not the high priority. So like if you have a spare minute, sure, but just don't focus on it too much. It's something for the longer term. I think closer to incentivized testnet, so we will support Raspberry Pis and stuff.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, any other questions, comments for what one was working on? No? Okay, Ozgan, you're next.
All right, so the most of the changes are related to Subspace desktop, but let me start with slot. We added testing and benching guides on the README for slot, and we changed drastically how mnemonic workflow works in the Subspace desktop app. Now it asks you to store the mnemonic before you start the plotting. And that's why you cannot actually miss to store your mnemonic before starting the process. And because of the mnemonic workflow, and we are only doing our work with the reward address on the front end, I removed all the public key related things from the front end because we are not dealing with this anymore. It was an old reminiscent from the previous code. It was a kind of a revamp and also reflected these changes to the upcoming multi-replica branch. So a small mistake on my end, like we had actually a bug in the multi-replica. I forgot to cast spawn a new Tokyo task for waiting on the farming task. So it was hanging. It was waiting for the farmer indefinitely. It was not able to proceed to dashboard. I fixed it. Now it's fine. And also, we had a bug for the reward address type extraction from the block on the front end for Subspace desktop. Like the front end was not able to extract the reward address from the block and compare it to the imported or generated reward address so that it can populate the farmed blocks. We also fixed it now. at least to my testing, multi-replica branch working from from end to end. Everything works fine. And also, the reward address storage and logic was a bit complicated on the front end. I also simplified it. And I added release notes for 0.4.1. And that's all for my, sorry, I forgot today. So SR Labs submitted a bug or high severity issue for RPC cores. Nazar fixed it. I'm testing it. It works in development mode. It doesn't work on production mode. I will get a deeper debugging logs and we'll discuss that with Nazar why it doesn't work on production. I started a couple of discussions on the Subspace desktop on issues GitHub. So for example, changing the name of Quick Start and Advanced and version display on the screen. And today I implemented node name display. It's not submitted as a PR. I'm doing the last checks, but I got it working. And also I implemented the reset button removal for the production mode, enabling it only for the development mode. That PR is merged just today. And that's all on my end. Any questions, comments?
I have a high level one. We still have the latest release from over 2 weeks ago. What prevents us from verifying in Margin's latest any of the newer ones?
Yeah, multi-replica will come very soon after the runtime upgrade on the monorepo side. So that's why we are waiting.
Well, but people are still downloading software. So why wouldn't they download 041 instead of 033?
I had been testing out 041 at the end of this week. I just wanted to verify it was working this morning, and then we should be good to move forward onto that release.
Okay.
Is there something we can change to make this process go smoother next time?
Go ahead, Sam.
I think it's a lot from that thread of 0.05 in that no one should be building no one should be once it's released on the GitHub page, it's in the public, and rather than having to deal with support that runs from that, there's no one should release. If you need to test stuff, it should be built locally and not via the release page.
Yeah, for 0.5, it was my bad. Yeah, it shouldn't be pre-released. But for others, like Nazar is talking about the previous releases.
Okay. No, but
I'm just concerned that we have fixes and improvements for many weeks and people don't see them.
Yeah, like I don't know what can we do. Like last week, Justin was away and I was dealing with lots of bugs, so I couldn't put much effort on the testing side. So I don't know what can we do about it.
So there's bits to this problem. There's that how often do you want to have to patch software for people to download the latest? So there has to be a threshold where it's okay, we've released everything announced. Otherwise, people are just downloading software. Well, hopefully our QA process and we have less bugs. But I can see if it's unchecked, people are downloading new builds 3 times a week, which isn't ideal. So maybe like when we start to do stuff like Semver, then we automatically know if if it's a dot something, 3 dots down, then it doesn't have to be. Maybe if it's a point 0 point something 0.2, then it's an advisory you can. Then for major milestones, then make people download it. But I guess the stuff we'll be talking about, because I think there's a threshold between what's okay for people not to have downloaded yet and compulsory upgrades or like generally advised upgrades.
Yeah, I think Samvar is good, but the goal is not to force people to update, but just the release that we put out, it shouldn't be left for over 2 weeks in just like pre-release state, and eventually never be actually recommended. Like, we are doing work, we need to be to allow newer users to download the newer stuff, even though old stuff still works. But if there are some improvements, like they can see the reward address, why would they download 033 if we already fixed it? Like just some way to deliver this to users sooner.
So, okay, so you're talking about the cycle, so contracting the from release to pre-release cycle.
Yes, primarily.
Okay, I think this is a great topic for us to discuss tomorrow in the engineering support sync, because we're going to be talking about releases specifically.
Okay. Any other questions to Ozgun? All right, Serge.
Yeah, hi. So my PR to Polka.js was merged, and those changes are already in the new release. And hopefully that will fix our timeout error on test A and potentially other environments. I created a PR to update dependencies on Relayer, both UI and backend. Regarding test A sync, as you remember, there was some delay, at least on Relayer UI. So I did some investigation, and actually UI was not reflecting the state of the chain. Could be because Polka.js version on UI was a little bit old, like 6 point something. And the new release is 8 point something. So I hope after we update dependencies, the issue will be gone. If not, I will investigate more. On parachains last week, I have added Sora and Turing on Relayer UI. And we're still waiting for unique PCU and Mangata to onboard probably this week. There were a few like minor PRs, one on Relayer UI, some refactoring and cleanup, and another one on Subspace.js. I have updated, added comments and updated README because there was some confusion on objects retrievability. So in our examples, we put object and get object in the same place right away. And obviously it doesn't work because you need to wait for archiving. So I have added some information. So there is no confusion about that. And feed validation. Yeah, as Vlad mentioned, we are currently working on recent changes and integrating on Relayer recent changes from the palettes. And this will be my priority for this week. And also, yeah, I started, I got myself familiar with a desktop code base. Ozgun gave me some introduction and we discussed what are the current challenges. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our grooming session on Wednesday so we can prioritize and yeah, so I can start working on desktop. Yeah, I guess that's all.
Thanks, Serge. Can you give us a little bit of I don't know, estimate on how many days of work are left on getting the relayer to reflect its validation, and when you'll be able to make a transition into working more on the desktop?
I hope by Wednesday it will be done, because there is only like block decoding doesn't work at the moment, and yeah, Vlad has said that it might be decoding or encoding of extrinsics. So I want to check that, and if that's is ready, like tests are implemented for bigger part of the code base. So just review PR and that's all.
Okay, great. Yeah, the sooner that we can get that started onto the whatever the unused testnet is and start that sync process, the better.
Awesome. Any other changes, questions to Serge? All right, Justin.
Yeah. So last week, obviously my biggest focus was kind of just trying to get caught up from my time off. Majority of that time was spent in just kind of obviously reviewing threads and messages from team members over the time prior, and reviewing support threads and questions from users, getting them transferred over to the forum. Trying to get that seated and everything with all of the prevalent questions that we had been asked prior. Beyond that, I've also been working with the community team on kind of getting restructured and resituated with Way, so we can continue to be effective moving forward. Submitted a few PRs to the documentation to improve that. There's some feedback from the users and the team, and some improvements as well as far as some of the configuration as well. At the end of last week, started testing out, finally got back onto getting Subspace Desktop tested out. I'll be wrapping up that testing this morning, getting that pushed out to the team as well so we can continue to move forward on that. As Nazar mentioned, I've been trying to improve that. I do apologize about the delay with that process. That's something that I'll try and work with Sam to get streamlined as best as possible. Nazar also just got the forms back, form feedback to me, so I'll be getting that implemented into the forms as well. Thank you for taking the time on that, Nazar. I know you've been very busy lately. Also going to be working with Ozgun to resolve the minimum hardware requirements for Subspace Desktop, at least so we can have some kind of baseline to start iterating on and continue to kind of provide those answers for users so they don't have as many questions going in. Moving into the end of this week, we'll be focusing on just kind of continuing support and utilizing our new support structure that Sam has been working on getting set up with our new leveling system. With the forums launching, hopefully we should be good to kind of start seeing that the wheel spin on that a little bit. So I'm sure we'll continue to iterate on that. And I'll also be wrapping up a Discord security presentation that I started working on a little bit before my vacation to kind of go into some of the best practices and things like that. Be getting a meeting scheduled for that as time permits.
All right, questions to Justin about any of this?
No, but just a comment, and just going back to your comment, Nazar, about getting the pre-releases updated to releases on the Subspace desktop. I'm probably partly responsible for the for how slow that's been, because I wanted to make sure that we did get all of this stuff, these new changes tested, you know, to Justin to be able to test this in a cross-platform way and get the team testing it as well, especially with these issues that Yvonne, that you're seeing, you know, in the fact that we just can't even build a plot of the size that we would expect when we have the data that we want. So if, you know, if it's anything to do with multi-replica farming, I would like to make sure that we get a good bit of testing done before we really push anyone in the community to update this or even make this the default version that anybody is using going forward.
Okay.
Definitely.
I saw your status on Discord that you're playing in Subspace Desktop. That was funny.
Yeah, if you go into your settings, you can set the specific application that you're using. We can even, if we want to get real fun with it, we can even program some of the Discord API things into Subspace Desktop as like little Easter eggs.
Okay, on my side, talking about the code specifically, I was basically working on several things. First of all, fixed a few things related to the security audit that we got feedback on. One was based on basically the bounce check that was missing on the getting elements from the vector. There was like a specific case where you can cause farmer to panic. It's not really possible to exploit the way we have it set up, but it was technically incorrect, so that was fixed. And there was an issue with course that was fixed in instructions on the Subspace monorepo, and some code changes pending review on the desktop side. And then I was working on some of the other fixes and tweaks towards the software upgrade, where we can actually issue a new runtime snapshot upgrade. So I added a CI job for that, and some of the other tweaks around chain specs. So when we build software, we don't have to do special commands and features to actually embed that, and everyone can basically go ahead and build the software. And I've noticed that we have actually two nodes on our telemetry, which are running AH64 already on Linux. So they must have been built by someone custom. So I'm happy that some of the fixes we did apparently work, at least for those. And bigger focus on this week will be to actually ship the runtime upgrade. I was waiting some confirmation from Surge that it works, but we'll probably just ship it and then we'll upgrade again if need be. So you're not blocked. And once we figure out the situation with documentation a little bit better, we will do upgrade of the rest of the stack, like Node and Farmer and desktop application and everything. And at that point, we will have full nodes instead of Arcana nodes, which will mean less space used by the node, resolving the Farmer dilemma. And we will be able to use more space if the user desires. So they will be able to specify how much space they want to allocate, and we will take care of the rest for them. Yeah, talking about code changes, I think those are the primary ones. There are, of course, different discussions and interviews and everything, as usual. Any questions about any of this to me?
Nazar, if you can just specify when you expect that forkless runtime upgrade is going to go out, and then what the future changes are.
I think it will go out today. There will be no visible changes for basically anyone, but there is some API enablement that will be required for the upcoming node upgrade and farmer upgrade. So we're just preparing for that. Technically, we have upgrade of the feeds API, just like we don't use it on the farmnet, but technically it's there, the validation and everything. And one thing that is potentially noticeable will block balance transfers, which wasn't blocked before, but we don't really expect anyone to actually use it. And we are tracking the stress test users by the block authoring, not the amount of coins they have, so it's kind of irrelevant. But those are the changes that will be shipped.
Okay, and this will this allow them to run it in full node mode, or is that going to require the client changes to be pushed first to be released?
We need client changes and farmer changes.
Okay.
And documentation updates. Like
okay, great.
All together.
Got it. And that's going to come later this week or next
later
week?
This week. I really hope this week. We are waiting for this for too long. The primary challenge is that we want to do this as a soft upgrade, not like forking the network into parts, and that just takes a lot of effort. But we need to establish this process for the future anyway. If you wanted to just break everything, that would be easier.
Can I track this runtime upgrade, for runtime upgrade from PR to the monorepo, or where? Like, can you?
There will be just a new snapshot kind. There will be a runtime snapshot. So if you are subscribed to, if you're watching repository, you will see it, and there will be notification in Discord. There is a thread already in the engineering. You can just subscribe to it if you want.
Thank you.
All right, Shamil, this is your first day. Maybe you have something to share. If not, that's fine as well.
Oh, I'm a new guy. I will listen more for the next several weeks, I think. Also, I realize that just to catch up with you guys, I need to read a couple thousands of pages. So I definitely will listen more than speak.
Shamil, you don't have a clue. You have to read 10,000 pages.
Oh, 10,000. So little underestimation, sorry. So I don't expect to speak much for the next several weeks.
All right, that's fair. Sam, is there anything you want to share before I stop recording?
Just while we're here, so it's like I had a mini iteration of the support model, and it looks like we're going to be scrapping the rotor and the role of L3 in it because it doesn't. Yes, party, because it just doesn't seem practical. It's one of those things that looks good on paper but might not be that practical. So by tomorrow, we'll just have a revised process, which is better streamlined and I think works better. This week we're working on deployments because it's important to have all those to line up all at current and to be deployment processes ahead of incentivized testnet. And that's me for this week.
So
Awesome.
Can you review the change, since we're not doing the support rota anymore, how it's gonna flow from L2 to the engineers now?
Okay, so basically, as opposed to me, if Surge is on the rota, as opposed to me knowing that it's Surge that I should tag, and sorry, if something goes on in the farmer and Surge is on the rota, as opposed to me going to Surge, okay, Surge, can you look at this and put it on the GitHub where Ivan will pick it up a week later. It's a lot quicker to just ping Ivan and have him look at it directly. What we worried about the most initially was that I came in at a very busy time, and that kind of load would not be sustainable on engineers. It would distract them too much. So what I came to realize is that the steady state for support is probably 2 pings a day. So given that, I think the role of L3 within that structure is superfluous. Shamil, in a catch up tomorrow, I'll take you through. I'll just take you through what the support model is, so that you understand it, because these guys have had. I will put you on the roster already. I was looking for you. Yeah, and you were meant to be doing it on Christmas Day. So yeah. So anyways, yeah. So we're taking away L3. So it would just be the community team tagging engineers. The challenge becomes okay. How do they know which engineer to tag? So what we've decided on is that they'll make it best, and we'll provide like a rough estimate, a rough guide to guide them through. This Ivan works on Pharma, Lucien works on consensus and execution, but they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it right. So if you are the wrong person, just tag the right engineer. This should be out by tomorrow. Questions? Is anyone else as sad to see the rota go as I am? Huh? Good.
Okay, so that means that all of you guys will be getting notifications from the forum in discourse, and you're going to need to respond to those, in the forum, and then create an issue if need be. From there, if it cannot be resolved, then you'll need to create an issue in GitHub. And if you're not the right person, then you need to identify who that person is and make sure they get tagged in the forum and that they take over responsibility for it until that issue is resolved.
Yeah, and I think the whole important thing is more about us internalizing responsibility, so the ball doesn't drop. So the chain of command, and who passes the hot potato.
All right, I believe that's all for today. On this sad note, we'll wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.